Welcome back, everybody. As vaccination rates across the country rise, communities are left with COVID's legacy of worsening health and financial inequality. Joining us right now is a man that is familiar with supporting disadvantaged communities. Wes Moore, he's the former CEO of the Robin Hood Foundation, and he's currently running for governor of Maryland. And Wes, it's good to see you. I guess we now know why you stepped down, because you are planning on trying to do from the public sector what you've been doing in the private sector for so long. Talk about why you are running for governor right now.
Yeah, I'm running for governor because if you look at my home state, the state of Maryland, we are a state that is one of the wealthiest states in the country, but also one of the most inequitable. You know, we're a state with some of the best schools in the United States and some of the most underfunded, some of the best medical institutions where people literally travel from around the world to get treatments in the state of Maryland. And we also have people who cannot afford to get treated in them. You know, and we can do better. When we think about the type of place we find ourselves in, for us to have a really unified and a broad conversation about economic opportunity, about work and wages and wealth, and how do we create that for all Marylanders, I feel like we have a unique moment and a unique place where we can lead in that conversation and make it a space where opportunity does not have to be miserly or arbitrary, but opportunity can be something that all people have a chance to advance into.
Wes, why do you think that you can be more effective in a public role doing that than in the private role, doing that through philanthropy to this point?
Yeah. Well, I think I've had the pleasure of leading in a multitude of different sectors of the American economy. You know, I've been a paratrooper where I've led soldiers in combat with the 82nd Airborne. I have been a successful business owner who had a successful exit from a business that I started in Baltimore that was effectively helping students, first generation, first and family students, make it to and through college. And then also as the CEO of one of the largest nonprofit organizations in this country, Robin Hood, and focusing exclusively on economic mobility and fighting poverty. And so I think one of the things that we can do and we understand is, A, I'm able to see it from a variety of different spheres. I'm able to build bridges and to be able to bring people together on a collective mission, on a collective goal. And I understand that unless we can focus on that, unless we can bring all these various sectors together, then we will repeatedly find ourselves just simply cleaning up the debris that's coming from broken systems. And good deeds alone will not be enough to lead us out of darkness. We have to lead a concerted and a concentrated conversation and a broad conversation with every sector of our economy to be able to provide economic opportunities for everybody.
Let's talk about the inequality problem, because it's definitely something that has gotten worse over the last several years, especially with the pandemic. But this is a problem that you can kind of tie back to the financial crisis, too. And there are lots of people who will point to this and say, this is a problem with the actions of the Federal Reserve. They took these extraordinary actions, brought interest rates down to incredibly low levels, and their point was a good one. They were trying to make sure that they could rescue the economy and save all boats and make them afloat. But the problem is the wealthiest people actually benefited the most from many of those activities and continue to do so to this day. What do you think about that? How would you go about attacking that when the Fed is doing things to try and keep the system afloat that probably have incredibly exacerbated the inequality problem?
And I think one of the real damages is we're actually starting to see some progress on measures of wealth inequality that we had not seen in a long time. We actually have started to see where the wealth gap was actually beginning to show signs of a measure of decrease, and that's no longer the case. You know, what we saw with COVID-19 is that we saw not just an exposure, but an expansion of this really nefarious wealth gap that continues to persist within our society. And the challenge is when we're talking about things like growing inflation and growing inflationary numbers, and we've been talking about the potential of inflationary pressure increasing over the past decade plus since we have had a run-up on the markets. And now that we're watching these pressures, the reality is who it's going to hit hardest as we're watching the price of basic goods increase is those who are low income. We still have a situation right now, Becky, where there's not a single congressional district in this country where a person can make minimum wage and afford a 2-bedroom apartment. Not one. And so when we're thinking about what the impact has been, particularly on low-wage workers, particularly on those who are the working poor, the ones who are working and still not making enough to get them above the poverty line, we see how unless we are having real conversations about work and work training and job reskilling and matching people for the jobs that are available, unless we're having real conversations about wages and making sure that people are getting paid a fair amount for a fair day's work, And unless that's translating into creating measures of generational wealth, we see how inflationary pressures will continue to create these massive economic and massive wealth divides that are going to have significant societal impacts on us going forward.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.